Greetings, it's Naturopath Eric Backer from New Zealand. I'm the author of a book called The Candida Crusher. You can see that at candidacrusher.com, and I'm also the formulator of a range of products called Canzida. You can see those at canzida.com with an X. Today we're going to talk about biotin. Is biotin any good for Candida? This is a question that was asked to me from a lady called Andrea Hall from Perth in Australia. So Andrea, I'm going to talk about biotin today, what it is, if it's any good for Candida. So it'll be quite an interesting video for you to check out, and I'm sure there'll be other viewers on YouTube with Candida or that just have an interest in biotin. So biotin is a kind of a B vitamin. It's really a coenzyme, like a lot of B vitamins are, and some people call it vitamin B7. So it's required really to help render fatty acids into energy. So it's very important also to allow certain types of amino acids to function properly, and folate, for example, functions really well when there's sufficient biotin in the body. So it's a very important stimulator of healthy cells in your body. It performs multiple functions and it's critical. One of the key roles in Candida, when I did a lot of research into biotin, is that it helps to prevent the conversion or the change from the cell form of Candida, the round form, into the mycelial or hyphal form, like the fine fungus-like thread the Candida can convert to, and biotin actually will stop that process. One thing I should tell you at the beginning of this video is that don't eat raw eggs. Raw eggs, particularly the egg white, contains a protein called avidin, and avidin will actually bind to biotin and help to remove it out of the body. So raw eggs are not good at all if you've got Candida, and also they're hard to digest. It's much easier for the body to break down and render denatured proteins into amino acids than if they're in their raw form. So lightly cook egg whites before you chew them and eat them, rather than to swallow them, liquid, or put them in blenders. It's not a good idea to eat raw eggs. Just slightly cooking them is a way better idea. That way you're not really going to get the problem with the biotin deficiency. Some people also have a biotinase deficiency. They have a deficiency in the enzyme responsible for utilizing biotin. And that coupled along with poor diets, high in fake foods that people eat today, like white foods, soda drinks, ice cream, fries, McDonald's, crappy food like this. These foods are depleted in biotin. And often if a person will have a biotin deficient diet along with high sugar and high stress, and then on top of that they have antibiotics, well, it's really like a Russian roulette for Candida, isn't it? You're a sitting duck for a yeast infection. So Dr. Orion Truss wrote a very important book called The Missing Diagnosis in 1983. So I've just got some notes out of my Candida Crusher book because I've written quite a bit about biotin in there. So Truss noticed that people who had diets with sufficient biotin in them didn't really have a seriously bad yeast infection. And he recommended people eat things like brown rice, egg yolks, again cooked, liver and kidney, and also organic soybeans. Now, we didn't have the GM, genetically modified soybeans back in those days, and soybeans were considered once a healthy food. Now they're considered like toxic waste matter by some people. So Dr. Truss recognized 30 years ago that people were very deficient in biotin and lacking in the typical SAD diet, the standard American diet. So here's a picture I'm going to hold up to the screen. I wonder if you can see it. And you can actually see here, if we have a careful look here, you can see the cell form, it's on that side, of Candida here. And here you can see the mycelial form, the spore form. So that's how actually Candida can convert from this form to this form. So when you have sufficient biotin in your diet, that's going to really be halted. So that was a 400 times magnification there of Candida. You can clearly see the two types, of Candida there. So Dr. Luc de Schepper wrote quite a good book in 1974 called Candida, The Symptoms, the Causes and Cure, and it's well worth reading by anyone with a serious yeast infection to look at Luc de Schepper's work. So Luc was a big believer in recommending biotin to patients with yeast infection to stop the yeast infection from going crazy, because the hyphal forms actually can form like little spears and penetrate parts of the body and implant more yeast in there, whereas they're almost like little harpoons, whereas the cell form can't do that so much. It's easier for the body to destroy the cell form than the hyphen form, so you don't want that conversion to take place. So a Japanese doctor in 1974, Dr. Yamaguchi, noted that when Candida was cultured in a biotin poor dish, it quickly changed to the invasive mycelial form. But as soon as biotin was added, it would halt this progression. So how does biotin work to counter yeast infections? Well, there's a couple of points here. Biotin has the ability to halt Candida from turning into a hyphal or mycelial form, which is a lot harder to get rid of and potentially more serious. Dr. Luc de Schepper said to take 3 milligrams per day if you've got a bad yeast infection, because it halts that progression. And I also mentioned the biotinase deficiency. So some people have got a problem with biotinase and they can't, recycle or reutilize biotin properly with this deficiency. And the other thing, which is a big problem today, is unfortunately people have got an issue with beneficial bacteria, and they actually help to produce biotin in the gut. So people with very good levels of beneficial bacteria, like the Lactobacillus species, will have more of a biotin in their bloodstream than people with a lower amount. And that's why I always recommend probiotics when you've got Candida. Check out my Candida Restore. I've made sure to put various types of Lactobacillus in that product in a special capsule called Capture Gel, which is going to really allow these bugs to get into the small intestine where they belong. Okay. The low carbohydrate biotin self-test. A good friend of mine, Dr. James Wilson from Arizona, the world expert in adrenal fatigues, said to me, "Eric, I got the best test for determining biotin's efficiency in people." Does that sound like an Arizona accent or what? So James, or Dr. Wilson, said to me, strictly avoid carbohydrates and take 3,000 micrograms or 3 milligrams per day of biotin for 3 days and see if any of your yeast infection symptoms improve. If symptoms improve, especially dramatically, you're probably suffering from mycelial candida overgrowth in your intestines. So I'm going to make a really top quality Candida multivitamin. It's on the drawing board. It's going to be Candida Rebuild. It's going to be a superb product. And it'll be a development which, well, I've been working on now for the last 6 months, but it's going to contain plenty of biotin in it to stop that conversion. So I hope that gives you some explanation there, Andrea, on what biotin is and its importance when it comes to Candida yeast infections and to stop the progression of serious yeast infections. So thank you for checking out my video. Please subscribe to my channel. Check out my site, yeastinfection.org. Do my quiz. And check out my Candida Remove and Restore product. I think you'll find those to be superb in your quest to get rid of your yeast infection. Thanks for checking me out today.